Tonight at 6, here in Manchester, nurse Lucy Letby is found guilty of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 6 others. The murders took place at the Countess of Chester Hospital, where she was working as a neonatal nurse.
She perverted her learning and weaponized her craft to inflict harm, grief, and death. Time and again, she harmed babies in an environment which should have been safe for them and their families.
Doctors had repeatedly raised concerns about Lucy Letby to senior management at the hospital before she was arrested.
One of them said, every time this is happening to me, that I'm being called in for these catastrophic events which were unexpected and unexplained, Lucy Letby is there. And then somebody else said, yes, I found that.
Easily. For the families involved, it's been a long and tortuous journey.
She's taken everything from us, absolutely everything.
It's just beyond your imagination that somebody's on a ward killing babies. It's unbelievable.
Police are now reviewing the admissions of 4,000 babies at hospitals where Lucy Letby worked.
And in the northwest, guilty nurse Lucy Letby is the most prolific baby killer in modern times. How could a nurse who was supposed to care for the most vulnerable babies carry out these horrific murders?
Hello and welcome to the BBC News at 6. The nurse Lucy Letby has been found guilty of murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 6 others when they were in her care at a hospital in Cheshire. It means that the 33-year-old is the UK's biggest killer of babies in modern times. In a statement, the families of Lucy Letby's victims said that justice could not reduce the extreme hurt, anger and distress that they had experienced, adding that they were heartbroken. Lucy Letby was also acquitted of 2 counts of attempted murder, and the jury were undecided on 6 charges of attempted murder. She will be sentenced on Monday. Today, the government has ordered an independent inquiry into the circumstances of the murders. Well, our North of England correspondent Judith Moritz is here with me now. And Judith, you've been following this case throughout, and it is a very, very disturbing one.
Yes, and it's thought, Rita, to be Britain's longest-running murder trial. 22 charges for the jury to consider, 10 months' worth of very difficult evidence. And they took more than 100 hours before they finished deciding on verdicts today. And it's not just, though, the length and scale of this case which has made it so very harrowing. Some of the detail we've not been able to report publicly. You may remember that there are court orders, for example, which protect the anonymity of the babies and their families, and some of the medics in this case. But I can tell you that inside that building, inside courtroom number 7, where we've been day after day, no detail has been spared. It has been harrowing. We've heard terrible evidence about the way those babies were made to suffer. Imagine being those parents, listening to that evidence. They'd left hospital thinking that their children had become ill or had died from natural causes. And then one day the police came knocking and told them that they had suspicions that crimes had been committed. Now, tonight, they're coming to terms with the knowledge that their children have been murdered by the very woman who was supposed to care for them.
She thought she'd get away with it, but this was the moment the game was up.
Oh, Lucy, is it?
Yes.
Hello, my name's Chester, please. Look, it's Stefan, 2 seconds.
Oh, yes?
Yeah, thank you.
Behind the door of this ordinary suburban house, Britain's most prolific baby killer was finally arrested 3 years after her murder spree began.
Just take a seat in there for me, Lucy. I'll move that seat forward a bit. Sure.
Yeah, I just had knee surgery.
Oh, right, OK.
She worked here on the neonatal unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital. Her role to care for the most premature and vulnerable infants. But that couldn't have been further from her mind.
The crying, I've never heard anything like it since. It was screaming. It was screaming, and I was like, what's the matter with them?
Legally, we can't identify the families in this case, but their stories are distressing. These are the parents of twin boys born prematurely in 2015. Their mum was taking milk to them when she heard one of her sons crying loudly.
He had blood around his mouth, and Lucy was there, but faffing about, not doing anything. Lucy said, oh, don't worry, the registrar was coming, and she told me to go back to the ward.
The baby's mum left him in this intensive care area and went to call her husband. They thought their son was in safe hands with Nurse Letby, but a short time later they were told he was dangerously ill, and they rushed back to find doctors trying to save him.
We were taken in, and we were told to talk to him and held his hand. And then the conversation with the consultant, and she said, we're going to stop. It's not helping. We want him to die in your arms.
On the unit, there were typically up to 3 deaths a year. But in 2015, they had that number in the month of June alone. And the pattern continued, with babies dying or coming close to death. The common factor? Lucy Letby. This staffing sheet shows she was the only employee who was present every time there was a suspicious event. Dr. Stephen Breary led the team of 7 consultants on the unit who shared joint concerns about Letby. He's now speaking publicly about their experience for the first time.
It's something that nobody really wants to consider, that a member of staff might be harming the babies under your care.
Things came to a head when 2 out of 3 healthy triplets died within 24 hours of each other in June 2016. Afterwards, a meeting was held for staff.
Lucy Letby was there. She was sitting next to me. I spoke to her and said how tired and upset she must be after 2 days of this, and I hoped that she was going to have a restful weekend. And she turned to me and said, no, I'm back on shift tomorrow. The other staff were very traumatised by all of this. We were crumbling before your eyes almost, and she was quite happy and confident to come into work.
Lucy Letby was eventually moved to a clerical role. The doctors kept trying to get managers to investigate the suspicious deaths and her connection to them. But we can now reveal that even though consultants here repeatedly made loud warnings to senior management, they say they were ignored and ultimately told that if they didn't stop raising questions about the nurse, there'd be consequences. And the doctors say that even after Lucy Letby came off duty on the neonatal unit, executives tried to draw a line under the case. And it was only a year after she stopped working as a nurse that the police became involved. After her arrest, officers found all sorts of items in her bedroom: baby's medical records, her diary, and notes covered in Letby's scrawl with phrases including, "I am evil, I did this."
She is a killer, and using her words, she is evil.
You've spent time interviewing her and watching her in court as well, giving evidence. What do you make of her?
I think she's very emotionless. She doesn't respond to a typical human response that I would have expected.
Did you have any concerns that there was a rise in the mortality rate?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me.
There was no empathy or sympathy with what's gone on at all.
I mean, there are people who look at her and say there's no way she can have done this. It's circumstantial evidence.
Yes.
She looks as though butter wouldn't melt.
It's an example to us all, really, of not judging a book by its cover. We've got to accept, and understand the evidence in this case has been, I believe, significant, and has taken us to understand that Lucy Letby is a killer.
As the trial ended today, Letby refused to come into the courtroom. Prosecutors later reflecting on the scale of her deceit.
In her hands, innocuous substances like air, milk, or medication like insulin would become lethal. She perverted her learning and weaponized her craft to inflict harm, grief, and death.
The nurse even wrote this sympathy card to the parents of one baby and searched for many of the other families on Facebook.
Not a single thing that I've ever seen or witnessed of Lucy would let me for a moment believe that she was capable of the things she was being accused of.
Dawn is one of Lucy Letby's childhood friends and has watched events unfold with disbelief.
She is the kindest person that I've ever known. She would only ever want to help people.
You seem utterly unshakable on this, but isn't it possible she's fooled you all?
Unless Lucy turned around and said, "I'm guilty," I will never believe that she's guilty.
The families of Letby's victims still have to live with unanswered questions, including what her motive was.
I want us to be locked up, and I never want us to come out again. Because what she's done has changed the course of our life forever.
Lucy Letby had many faces. Party girl, graduate, bright young nurse. But each face was a mask for evil hiding in plain sight. And at last her cover has slipped. Lucy Letby will now be known as one of Britain's most notorious criminals. Judith Moritz, BBC News, Manchester.
Well, Lucy Letby has been convicted of 7 murders, but the BBC has learnt that there were actually 13 deaths on the neonatal unit where she worked in a 1-year period, and that is 5 times the usual rate. Lucy Letby was on duty for all of them. And as Judith has just revealed, doctors on the unit were raising concerns for months about Letby, but senior managers ignored their warnings and protected her. Our social affairs correspondent Michael Buchanan has this report.
This is the story of an NHS trust that didn't properly investigate why 13 babies died unexpectedly in a 1-year period. Instead, it turned against the very people who wanted the police to examine the deaths.
There is only one serial killer of babies that's worked in that organisation, and the executive team were not the people who were responsible for the deaths of those babies. But they had some opportunities to get to the bottom of what was happening.
Susan Gilby joined the Countess of Chester NHS Trust as medical director a month after Lucy Letby was arrested. Within 2 months she was made chief executive, a post she held until last December. Through documents and speaking to staff, she learned what the trust knew about the serial killer. The first 3 babies died in June 2015. The executive team held a meeting at which it was agreed that an external investigation into the deaths would be held. It never happened. By October, with 7 babies now dead, a staff analysis of the incidents made a link between all the deaths and Lucy Letby being on shift, but it was still seen as coincidental. In February 2016, with 10 babies now dead, the Director of Nursing, Alison Kelly, and Ian Harvey, the Medical Director, were asked for an urgent meeting to discuss the deaths and Lucy Letby's links to all of them. They didn't respond for 3 months.
The paediatricians were discussing, the terrible nights on call that they were having. One of them said, every time this is happening to me, that I'm being called in for these catastrophic events which were unexpected and unexplained, Lucy Letby is there. And then somebody else said, yes, I found that. And then someone else had the same response. And they all realised that the common factor for each of them was Letby's presence on the unit.
In June 2016, 2 babies died on consecutive days. 13 children had now died. Lucy Letby was on shift for all of them. The day after the second death, the nurse was due back in the unit. Paediatrician Steve Breary rang the duty manager asking for Letby to be replaced. The manager refused.
I challenged her. I said, well, are you saying that you're making this decision against the wishes of 7 consultant paediatricians? And she said yes. And I said, well, if you're making this decision, are you taking responsibility for anything that might happen tomorrow to any other of our babies? And she said yes.
Letby went to work and a baby unexpectedly collapsed.
We were urging them to investigate our concerns appropriately, and most of us felt the most appropriate way to do that would be to go to the police.
The response from the medical director was unsupportive. In an email to the paediatricians obtained by Panorama, Ian Harvey wrote, "Action is being taken. All emails cease forthwith." The police were not called. Instead, in September 2016, the Royal College of Paediatrics and Child Health was asked to carry out a review of the neonatal unit. It urged the Trust to investigate each death individually. This didn't happen. Around this time, Lucy Letby launched a grievance procedure against the paediatricians. The internal process concluded that she'd been discriminated against and victimised by the doctors on the unit. With the paediatricians wanting a police investigation, in January 2017, an extraordinary board meeting was held. The medical director, Ian Harvey, gave a verbal report. He said external reviews had not highlighted any individual as being linked to the deaths, and that the Trust was ready to draw a line under the issues. The Chief Executive, Tony Chambers, said he'd met Lucy Letby and her parents to apologise for what had happened. A statement written by Letby was read out, detailing how hard the past few months had been for her. The meeting decided Lucy Letby would return to the neonatal unit after the paediatricians had written a letter apologising to her. This is the letter they sent Lucy Letby, signed by all 7 paediatric consultants in the unit. Against their wishes, they apologised for any inappropriate comments that may have been made, going on to say, "We are very sorry for the stress and upset that you have experienced in the last year." Though the paediatricians feared being reported to the regulator, they kept going, pressurising executives to call the police, something the Trust eventually did in May 2017.
The reputation of the organisation and protecting that reputation was a big factor in how people responded to the concerns raised.
They were dragged, kicking and screaming, the executive team, to call in the police.
That would certainly be the conclusion that I would reach.
At the time Letby was arrested in July 2018, she was still working at the Trust. No disciplinary action had been taken against her.
The strong opinion was that there would be nothing found. There was a brief overlap of 3 or 4 days between myself and the outgoing medical director, and his parting words to me, to my surprise, were, "You need to refer the paediatricians to the GMC."
The former medical director denies threatening to report the doctors to the General Medical Council for misconduct. In a statement, Tony Chambers, the former chief executive, said, "All my thoughts are with the children at the heart of this case and their families and loved ones. As chief executive, my focus was on the safety of the baby unit and the well-being of patients and staff. The trial has shown the complex nature of the issues raised. There are always lessons to be learned." The former medical director, Ian Harvey, said, "My thoughts are with the babies whose treatment has been the focus of the trial and their parents. As medical director, I was determined to keep the baby unit safe and support our staff. I wanted the reviews and investigations carried out so we could tell the parents what had happened to their child." Both men said they'd cooperate with the upcoming inquiry. Michael Buchanan, BBC News, Cheshire.
Well, the families who've been concerned have been coming here to Manchester Crown Court for months to listen to evidence. And the parents of twin brothers who are among Lucy Letby's 13 victims say that she should spend the rest of her life behind bars. Baby E, who was the 4th of 7 babies murdered by the nurse, was killed by an injection of air into his bloodstream. Within 24 hours, Letby tried to kill his twin brother, baby F, with insulin. Medics were able to save him, but his parents say that he's been left with severe learning difficulties. Judith Moritz, our correspondent, is here with me. And Judith, you've been talking to the family concerned.
Yeah, I'll never forget the time I've spent with that family who asked the BBC to help them tell their story. Such a personal story. They spoke to me so bravely, openly. Honestly, I can tell you that 8 years since those twin babies were attacked, that their feelings are still so raw that they have open-ended grief and that their anger is clear. And I'm just so grateful that they spoke to us about their experience.
In the corridor, I could immediately hear crying. Well, it felt more than crying. It was screaming. It was screaming, and I was like, what's the matter with him? I walked into the room, seen it was my boy. He had blood around his mouth, and Lucy was there, but faffing about. You know when it feels like somebody wants to look busy, but they're not actually doing anything?
What did Lucy Letby say to you?
Lucy said, oh, don't worry. She has this really calm demeanour about her, and she's, you know, very, very softly spoken. And don't worry, the registrar was coming. She'd already contacted him. He was on his way, and she told me to go back to the ward.
I was trying to reassure my wife that, listen, these people are experts, and, you know, if they say there's not a problem, you've got nothing to worry about. And that was the first phone call. Quickly followed up by a second phone call with a midwife saying, you need to get here now. And there was a third phone call telling me, where are you? The priest has been called. And I just knew. I knew at that point, you know, you don't call a priest unless someone's dying.
What could you say?
We were taken in, and we were told to talk to him, and held his hand. He was christened. The consultant, and she said, we're going to stop. We want him to die in your arms, rather than being worked on. So we said, okay. And they passed him to us, and he died.
Can you just talk me through what happened in the aftermath of losing your first child? How was your other son doing?
One of the nurses said, you know, he's not well. His heart rate is really, really high.
What was your first thought?
It's happening again. Thought it was happening again. And I said to my husband, please not again. We can't do this again. This can't be happening. It's almost bang on 24 hours since our other son had died. So I went, and I sat with him all night. His heart rate was absolutely through the roof. You know, it didn't come down, and I was just like, just come down. You know, and I'm almost trying to will the machine, you know, bring his heart rate down, make it okay.
And did he recover easily?
He's got severe learning difficulties. He's got a lot of complex needs.
Is it your belief that that's connected
Yes.
to what happened?
Yes.
Directly as a consequence?
There's a consequence, and he's living with it.
What do you think when you go into court, you look at Lucy Letby?
I think she's a hateful human being. She's taken everything from us. Absolutely everything.
It's just beyond your imagination that somebody's on a ward killing babies. It's unbelievable.
Because what she's done has changed the course of our life forever.
Judith, it is so upsetting listening to the testimony of the parents. Is today the end of the matter?
No, far from it. Most immediately, we know that Lucy Letby will be sentenced here on Monday. We've been told by her legal team she won't appear. But we know that those families will be here to read statements about their experience. So the judge takes those into account. Beyond that, well, the Department of Health has announced that there will be an independent inquiry. The NHS has, we know, many questions to answer, as you've seen in those reports. And the police have not concluded their investigation. They've told us that they are looking actively at the entire footprint of Lucy Letby's working life, from when she qualified as a nurse and then went initially on work placements, including a time at a hospital in Liverpool, and then beyond, so from 2012 onwards. So, no, I don't think this is the end of the road, maybe the beginning of the end, but for those involved, you know, it's 8 years since those first crimes were committed. It's been such a long and harrowing and terrible journey for those families. And sadly, I think, yes, there is still a way to go.
Okay, Judith, many thanks. Our correspondent Judith Moritz, who's worked on this for many months. And you can watch a documentary about this case. It is Judith's report. It's on BBC One tonight at 8 p.m. and it's also shortly on the BBC iPlayer. It's Panorama, Lucy Letby, the nurse who killed. And if you've been affected by this story, or if you need advice or support, there is advice available on the BBC's Action Line pages, or you can call free on 08000 155 998. Well, after a 10-month trial, the longest murder trial in UK history, Lucy Letby has finally been convicted for a series of heinous crimes. And although there is justice for most of the families, this is surely a dark day too for the NHS, with so many questions about why senior doctors' concerns weren't listened to or acted on, and whether babies' lives might have been saved if they had been. The word evil has been used to describe Lucy Letby, but the system that allowed her to go on killing is tonight under intense scrutiny. And with that, it's back to you, Clive.
Rita, thank you very much indeed for that. Rita Chakrabarti with those series of reports there. Well, within the last hour, police have been giving details of an international search for 3 people following the murder of a 10-year-old girl. Sarah Sharif's body was discovered at a house in Woking last week. Detectives say her father, his partner and his brother flew to Pakistan the day before she was found. Well, Helena Wilkinson is in Guildford at Surrey Police Headquarters for us. Helena, what have police been saying today?
Well, these are significant developments, Clive, in this murder investigation after the death of 10-year-old Sarah Sharif, who was found in her home in the early hours of last Thursday in Woking. As you've mentioned there, this evening, police have named her father, Irfan Sharif, her stepmum, Binesh Batul, and her uncle, Faisal Malik, as 3 people they want to speak to in connection with this investigation. They travelled from the UK the day before Sarah's body was discovered on Wednesday and travelled to Islamabad. And police have tonight revealed that Sarah's father made a 999 call after he landed in Islamabad, and that's what led police to the property in Woking. A post-mortem examination took place on Tuesday. It's yet to reveal the cause, how Sarah died. But again tonight, police have revealed that the post-mortem examination revealed she suffered multiple and extensive injuries likely to have been caused over a sustained period of time. And police are appealing to anyone who may know Sarah to come forward so they can build a picture of her lifestyle.
Okay, Helena, thank you for that. Helena Wilkinson there in Guildford in Surrey. The Canadian authorities are stepping up emergency evacuation flights from the remote city of Yellowknife, which is threatened by wildfires. A separate blaze in British Columbia has caused the city of Kelowna to declare a state of emergency and also begin evacuations. Canada is battling its worst wildfire season on record. The country's environment minister says the situation is dire and the evacuations are the largest Canada has seen. Here, banks and building societies will soon face fines if they don't provide sufficient access to free cash withdrawals. The Treasury has drawn up rules making sure the vast majority of people living in cities can withdraw money within 1 mile and 3 miles if they live in a rural area. But campaigners say this won't stop the closure of bank branches and are calling for more shared banking hubs to be set up. Now on Sunday morning, England's Lionesses face Spain in the final of the Women's Football World Cup in Australia. The manager, Sarina Wiegman, who led the team to victory in the Euros last year, has been speaking of her side's strength after losing key players to injury in the build-up to the tournament, and about what it would mean to add the World Cup to their European Championship title.
Making a final is special anyway, but with this team and with the challenges we had before the tournament, when we were here, and how we find a way all the time to solve problems has been amazing. And the resilience the team showed has been really good. And I think it's very special to be in the final, but now we want to win it too. It's going to be another fight. It's going to be a big challenge. And I just hope it's going to be an incredible game. And of course I have a very preference who who wants to win.
Indeed, the England head coach there, Serena Wiegman. Time now for a look at the weather news. Bit of rain today, Helen. Summer? Where's that?
No, I was going to say it should be fine for the match in Australia on Sunday. But here in the UK, our second storm of the summer. It's been named by MMXXIII. Storm Betty, which is now bearing down upon us. Already behind me, you can see the coasts and waves are being washed up onto the sea wall in the Isle of Man. So we have got some really inclement weather on the way. This is a rapidly intensifying area of low pressure, Storm Betty. So it's a two-pronged attack. Yes, more heavy rain after, as Clive said, we already had some heavy rain this morning, but also some very unusually windy weather. 60, 70 miles an hour, more likely we'll see in autumn than August. And so here we go. Yellow warnings out for that from the Met Office. Slightly disruptive winds, but also combined with some disruptive rainfall, large waves around the coast as well. Now that rain becomes slow moving through parts of Northern Ireland when it sweeps up into Scotland. But across eastern parts of England, we could have some really intense thunderstorms overnight. A very loud night, frequent lightning, large hail and intense downpours of rain. And then, as I say, it becomes slow moving further north. So warnings out for 40 to 60 millimetres of rain over some of the hills up into the Grampians, as much as 80 millimetres perhaps, as well as that for Northern Ireland. So a month's worth of rain potentially coming overnight tonight and at first tomorrow, slowly trundling northwards, really strong winds with it as well. Although it's an improving picture, as you can see, in terms of drying up for England and Wales, but more showers coming into Scotland and Northern Ireland. Now, really muggy overnight tonight, most definitely so. And although we're losing some of that humidity tomorrow as the wind shifts into the southwest, still feeling warm when we get the sun out. So it looks like a really stormy night ahead. But as we gradually head through the weekend, that low pressure is just pulling a little bit further away from us. High pressures being allowed to build into the south. So perhaps fewer showers on Saturday and Sunday, more dry windows of weather, but still with that influence and those strong brisk winds up in the north and west with a few showers. So it will be a little warmer on the east coast of Scotland both tomorrow and on Sunday because we've switched the wind direction. Still 24, 25, but really batten down the hatches. Some nasty weather tonight. Clive.
Oh dear. All right, Helen. Thank you. Helen Willis there. That's it. You can keep up with all the latest developments on the BBC website, but the news continues here on BBC One as we join our colleagues for the news where you are. Bye for now.